If you're tired of these promos, supporters get the podcast early and ad-free. Just go to donate.bogosity.tv for the links to sign up. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the week of 15 January 2022, the podcast that translated the Rosetta Stone into Python. This is your host, Shane Killian. Let's transubstantiate the news of the bogus. Prepare for this segment to be more preachy than usual, but it's a continuing problem we see over and over again in celebrations such as New Year's and Independence Day. People firing guns into the air. Understand that if you do that, the bullet can travel for miles and still do lethal damage. Sadly, there are always several stories to be found of this happening, and this one I'm covering is far from the only one, but it's just up the road from me in Durham, where a woman was shot and killed by what was probably celebratory gunfire. Neighbors told WRAL that they heard gunshots, and that made them go back into their homes for safety. The shooting itself was witnessed by Odell Lyons, who was working on his car when he spotted a woman and her friend pull up in their car. One of the women fell to the ground. Lyons thought she was having a heart attack. Quote, "It was just a freak accident. I didn't know what was going on. I just thought the lady was sick." Understand, bullets travel faster than the speed of sound. That means that the bullet can hit someone seconds before the sound of the gunfire, especially for a bullet that's traveled for miles. Even the whip crack of the sonic boom the bullet makes will lag behind a bit, and it'll be difficult for the mind to attach it to what it sees. So when police arrived on the scene, they found the woman unconscious. She later died of gunshot injuries at the hospital. Lyons said it perfectly well, quote, "The old saying is, what goes up, gotta come down." You'd think more people would have that kind of common sense, but the Dunning-Krugerites online keep saying this is a myth, because a bullet fired into the air will only come down at its terminal velocity, which is not enough, they say, to do any damage. This is false. Deadly false, as this story proves. Okay, if you manage to shoot a bullet at precisely 90 degrees, then at the apex, the bullet would stop, fall, and tumble, reaching the ground at its terminal velocity, which likely wouldn't do lethal damage, although it wouldn't be any fun. But if you're off by even a tiny amount, if there's even the slightest angle to your line of fire, and there almost certainly will be, every single time, then the bullet will not stop and tumble. It'll travel in a parabola, maintaining its spin and a ballistic trajectory like a football, and travel potentially for miles, reaching the ground with enough velocity to kill. I mean, unless you're using some sort of device that lets you precisely calibrate the angle, you are not firing it in a way that is just going to stop and tumble. So just don't do it! The story also mentions other times this has happened. Just in Durham this New Year's alone, there were at least 5 shootings, including 2 boys, 17 and 16 years old, as well as 3 others. City Councilman Leonardo Williams said, quote, "It's such an unfortunate reality that will have to coexist with selfish behavior at the expense of someone's life." I'll say it again, people. Don't do this. No celebratory gunfire, no warning shots, shoot the gun at a target or not at all. If you're looking for a way to support this channel, but you don't have any spare cash and you can't stand ads, you can do so by generating your own cryptocurrency. Use the links at the bottom of the description to follow the link to Odyssey.com to listen to the podcast and see all of my YouTube videos as well. Just watching videos will produce cryptocurrency for the creator and yourself. And since Odyssey is always monetized and never censored, you'll have no problem seeing all the videos from your favorite creators. You can also use the library credits you create at Odyssey to tip creators and even purchase paid content. Earn library credits through various rewards, including daily view rewards and the number of shares and invites. And you can interact with creators in all sorts of ways, including like and dislike, comment, boost a post by supporting it, repost it, and share to other sites, all while earning crypto for the creator. Easily monetize yourself and your favorite creators using cryptocurrency without advertising. Use the link below to visit this channel on Odyssey.com and see many of your other favorites there as well. A more continuous problem affecting all of us everywhere is inflation, which hit 7% in 2021, the biggest it's been since 1982. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, overall inflation was 7% over 2021. In December alone, consumer prices rose 0.5%. And if it continues at that rate, inflation for 2022 would be closer to 8%. According to Sarah House, senior economist at Wells Fargo, quote, "The breadth of gains in recent months gives inflation inertia that will be difficult to break. We expect the CPI to remain close to 7% the next few months." To combat this, the Fed will need to shrink the balance sheet and increase interest rates. But that would make it harder for President Biden and Democratic Congress thieves to pass their major tax and spend packages. And of course, wages aren't keeping up. Since wages are stickier than prices, they always lag behind. And that's what we saw last year, despite incredible pay raises as businesses face labor shortages across the board. When adjusted for inflation, real wages were actually down 2.4% in December. There was some minor good news. Energy prices fell for the first time since April. And although food prices are still rising, they moderated with a decreased cost of meat. But these are largely regressions to the mean, primarily as the result of supply chains being reestablished. That might be another solution for this. And the freaking lockdowns! Without those, people can go back to work, supplies can move again, and more products can be on the shelves, shifting the supply curve to the right and lowering prices. But that would only do so much. As Stephen Stanley, chief economist at Amherst-Pierpont, said, quote, "Sure, there will be goods categories that cool off once supply bottlenecks begin to ease later this year. But at the same time, the pressure from wages to prices is only going to ramp up." The solution is simple. Just stop printing money. But that means that Biden won't be able to afford his great new society he has planned for all of us. So really, don't expect there to be any real chance of that. If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. We've seen the horrible things police do to extract false confessions from possibly innocent suspects, up to and including using techniques that implant false memories. This one is not only one of the worst, it's also 100% deliberate. They use fake DNA reports to lie to suspects and pretend they have conclusive evidence when they don't. Police in Virginia Beach, Virginia forged documents purportedly from DNA labs linking people's DNA to crimes in an effort to coerce confession or cooperation in blatant violation of their constitutional rights. Attorney General Mark Herring has said the policy will be discontinued after it came to public light, but maintained, as did the city of Virginia Beach, that it's totally 100% legal. And the sad fact is, they're probably right. Long ago, the courts began supporting the so-called right of police to lie to people about the evidence against them, or anything else for that matter. It's still against the law for you to lie to them, of course. But it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that, since the cops get to lie and say they have evidence they don't, they also get to forge it. So don't go celebrating yet. Just because Virginia Beach has stopped doing this doesn't mean there aren't a ton of other departments that do that we just don't know about. The bogus documents were under the letterhead of and with a seal from the Virginia Department of Forensic Science, and included the signature of a fictitious employee. In one case, it was even presented to a court as evidence. Herring said, quote, "This was an extremely troubling and potentially unconstitutional tactic that abused the name of the Commonwealth to try to coerce confessions. This is clearly a tactic that should never have been used." He didn't say whether or not any previous confessions would be invalidated or any previous cases would be re-examined. How often does it need to be said? Do not trust the police. Do not speak to them without a lawyer. They are not public servants. They are criminal thugs. Nothing more.
Do you have children, or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-age children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at Bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins.
And now it's time to repacify this week's biggest Bogon Emitter. And this week it goes to a whole mess of politicians, as well as almost all of the news media, mostly for continuing to call Donald Trump an anti-vaxxer. Look at the history of this podcast. We've never been any fan of Trump, but he has been praising the vaccine pretty much since day one. He reiterated this in an interview with One American News when host Dan Bell asked him about his comments encouraging people to get the COVID vaccine. Quote, "Now, after so many months of the vaccine being administered and these side effects, and Americans' questions of it, do you reconsider your push for it? Or what's your view on the vaccine in general?" Trump replied, quote, "Well, I've taken it. I've had the booster. Many politicians, I watched a couple of politicians be interviewed, and one of the questions was, did you get the booster? Because they had the vaccine, and they are answering like, in other words, the answer is yes, but they don't want to say it. Because they're gutless. You gotta say it. Whether you had it or not, say it. But the fact is that I think the vaccine saved tens of millions throughout the world. I've had absolutely no side effects." The question was in response to Trump pushing back against Candace Owens when she claimed the vaccine doesn't work. He said, probably overstating, quote, "The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. I came up with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years. Owens claimed, quote, "Yet more people have died under COVID this year. By the way, under Joe Biden than under you, and more people took the vaccine this year, so people are questioning how." Trump interrupted her, quote, "Oh no, the vaccine works, but some people aren't the ones. The ones who get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine, but it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good, and if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine. He reiterated those claims to One American News, and ironically, it's some of his biggest allies his comments are targeted towards. As of last summer, something like half of House Republicans refused to say whether or not they'd been vaccinated. It's an odd flip from when Trump was in office, when Republicans were hailing his Operation Warp Speed and Democrats were fearmongering about it, saying they'd never take the Trump vaccine. Now, supposedly, Trump is like the leader of the anti-vax movement somehow. I just did a simple DuckDuckGo search and found a number of headlines about this over the last few months. MSNBC has an article, Trump helped create an anti-vaccine monster. Insider.com ran the story, How Donald Trump Became an Anti-Vaccinationist. Yahoo News posted a story from the Griot headlined, How Trump and the right's anti-vaccine propaganda is killing black people. And SciPost ran a story claiming that Trump was the biggest anti-vaccination influencer of 2020. What no one could find is any actual tweets or comments by Trump actually making anti-vaccination statements. So all of that makes politicians and the news media this week's biggest Bogon Emitter. I want to tell you about the eyeglasses I've been wearing for years. As people can see on my videos, I have a very strong prescription, which makes glasses more expensive, especially when I need computer glasses, reading glasses, prescription sunglasses, and most expensively, progressive lenses for general everyday wear. To save money while still getting quality glasses, I get them from Firmoo. In fact, I just got a pair of progressives with high-index aspherical lenses and a nice pair of frames my wife loves for just over $100. It would have been $500 to get them through my eye doctor. Not only do they look good, the glasses are durable. I've worn many pairs for several years without problems. All orders come with a 30-day return policy, a 3-month warranty, and one-on-one customer service. Go to Firmoo, that's FIRMOO.Bogosity.tv anytime you need quality glasses at a low price. Once again, that's Firmoo.Bogosity.tv. And now let's intimate this week's Idiot Extraordinaire. And this week it goes to anti-piracy outfit Rightscorp, who, after grifting and extorting a buttload of money, has had its corporate status voided after it failed to pay $450,000 in taxes. Rightscorp is backed by the RIAA and several major music labels, and they've taken some of the country's biggest ISPs to court over alleged music piracy by their users, saying they failed to terminate their accounts by ignoring their unsubstantiated assertions of criminal activity. They've gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation and even $1 billion from Cox. They have pending cases against RCN, Charter, Bright House, and Grand Communications. For the most part, the ISPs don't accept it. RCN said, quote, RCN contends that plaintiffs and Rightscorp engaged in unlawful, unfair, and fraudulent business practices by flooding RCN with illegitimate copyright complaints and destroying the evidence on which those complaints were ostensibly based. As part of the discovery in their case, they want access to Rightscorp's database, saying that there's no other way to determine the legitimacy of their piracy claims. They told the court, quote, Rightscorp refused to provide access to its databases and instead offered to create a new database solely for purposes of this litigation and only containing data that Rightscorp deems relevant to RCN. In their lawsuit against Cox, a federal court ruled that Rightscorp had intentionally destroyed the source code of the system they used to track pirates to prevent it from being turned over in discovery. Now, on top of it all, the state of Delaware has voided their corporate status after they failed to pay their taxes. That would make it a criminal offense for Rightscorp to exercise its corporate powers in court. Additionally, California has revoked their license to conduct business for failure to file annual statements. maybe they should have spent a little less time fabricating evidence and a little more time actually running their business. To make all that money and then have their license and corporate charter revoked just because they didn't pay taxes and failed to file paperwork? That just has to make Rightscorp this week's Idiot Extraordinaire! Well, that wraps up this. The eyes are open, the mouth moves, but Mr. Brain has long since departed, hasn't he? Edition of the Bogosity podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go to donate.bogosity.tv for several ways to support and discord.bogosity.tv to join the discussion. Subscribe at Patreon or Subscribestar, and you can listen early and ad-free. Thank you for listening. Until next time, here's a quote from Clarence Darrow. Every government on earth furnishes proof that there is nothing practical or vital in its teachings. Every government on earth is the personification of violence and force. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Bogosity.
We live in a world where light bulbs connect to the internet, and recent attacks on them prove that your online security is under threat like never before. Not only your websites, but the internet-enabled devices you buy. And the biggest problem is weak passwords. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords on the web and on your internet-enabled devices, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers, all your computers, and even your mobile devices, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, software licenses, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications, manage passwords for your entire family, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now.